You are welcome to Fusion Mobile e-learning platform. I'm Olokobi Pelumi by name. So in this class we'll be teaching talking about the subject commerce, and we are having public enterprises as the major topic to be treated in this lab. So under this topic we'll be looking at the definition of public enterprises. We'll also be looking at the features or characteristics of public enterprises. Thereafter, we'll look at the reasons for the establishment of public corporations or reasons for government participation in public corporation. So also, we'll be looking at the problems which are associated with public corporation, which are public enterprises. Also, we'll be looking at the source of finance or capital to public corporation, and also we'll be looking at the differences between public corporation and public limited company. Okay, the first thing we have on the line is the definition of public enterprise. The public enterprise. The public enterprise is a form of what? Corporation, which is usually set up, owned, and controlled by the government of a country for the purpose of providing services to the people of that particular country. So if any form of an enterprise is set up, owned, and controlled by the government, such an enterprise is referred to as public enterprise. So such an enterprise is referred to as public enterprise. So the enterprise is not usually formed for profit making, but rather they are formed to provide services to the people of that country. And if such an enterprise is formed, what will happen? Government does not form such an enterprise for the major aim of making profit, but to provide services for the people. And also, such an enterprise is usually established through an act of parliament. That is, it is established by an act of what? Parliament. And also, how the government source for the finance in the establishment of this company. Such enterprises are usually from through money received from taxes. That is total amount of tax collected by the taxpayers are used in the establishment of such a corporation. Now the next thing we have is the features or characteristics of public corporation. We have the features, and we are going to look at the features in this area. Now we're going to look at in form of ownership. We're going to look also how is it establishment. We're going to look at, is it a legal entity, just like we treated in company. Management. What are those managing is? And also, what is the aim of such an enterprise? What is the aim? What is it from? Who bear risks? Risk bearer. What are the risk bearer in the business? So, and also, what are the risk bearer in the business? And also, so let's look at the features of public corporation in the following area. First thing, we have ownership. Generally, public enterprises are usually owned by the government of a country. So they are owned by the government of a country. They are owned, controlled, and financed by taxpayers' money. So once such an enterprise has been established, what happens? It becomes the property of the government. Now the next thing we have is the establishment. How is corporate enterprises established, as public enterprises established? They are actually established through an act of parliament. That is an act of legislature, usually what comes about the establishment of such an enterprise. Now the next thing we have is the legal entity. When talking about public corporation, public corporations is also similar to the public limited liability company. So the business is usually having a legal entity. That means it's having a personality of its own. So the business can be sued and be sued on its own behalf. So that means the business serves as a as an entity of its own, as a distinctive entity of its own. So the business is different from what? From the government that actually established it. So the business is having what? A legal entity. Generally, all public enterprises or public corporations are having what? A legal entity. So also looking at it at management. Wow. Generally, those responsible for the management of public enterprises are the board of directors, but this board of directors are actually appointed by the government. So the management of the enterprises is usually kept in trust of the board of directors. Now the next thing we have is the aim. What is the public corporation form? Public corporation is not formed for profit making, so it's not for profit making. So the public corporations are not actually what? Not for profit making. They're not for profit making. So now risk barrier. Exactly. What is that bear the risks of the enterprises? Those that bear the risks of the enterprises are the government and the taxpayers. Those are actually what? Paying taxes, because it's their money that is used what? In establishing such an enterprise. So the risk barrier and the government, that is at the governments and what? And taxpayer. Now the next thing we have workers that refers to public servant. So the worker of the public enterprises, any worker of public enterprises are referred to as public servant. So they are the servant of the public, and they are responsible what? In providing services at a reduced cost to the members of the public. Okay, let's look at some examples of public corporations in the country, like Nigeria. We have example. We have NRC. We have Nigeria Railway Corporation. We have Nigeria Airports Authority. We have Nigeria Television Authority. We have NNPC. We have Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation. So we have a lot of them. We have a lot of them in the countries. We have a lot of them. So which are responsible in providing what? Public services to the people. Which are responsible in providing public services to people. Now the next thing is the reason for the establishment. Oh wow. Let's talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of public corporations. That one is important too. Let's look at the advantages and disadvantages. What are the advantages of public corporation? So public corporation is having a lot of advantages. Let's look at that now. So we're going to look at the advantages and disadvantages of the public corporation. And the first thing, we have the advantages. Wow. So we're going to look at that in this area. The provision of infrastructural facilities. So number 2, revenue generation. Number 3, provision of employment. Number 4, provision of services at reduced costs. Okay. Number 5, improve the standard of living of people. Number 6, avoidance of exploitation of the consumer. Number 5, avoid monopoly tendencies. We're going to look at the advantages in the following areas. Number 1 is the provision of infrastructural facilities. Wow! So if the corporate enterprise, public enterprises rather, is to be established, what happens? There's a lot of infrastructure that have to be put in place. A lot of facilities that have to be put in place. What happens? So it means, so the existence of public enterprises means what? The existence of more infrastructural facilities in the economy, which helps to what? Encourage economic activities in the economy, and also brought about development in the economy. So the next thing we have is the revenue generation. Wow! The public enterprises, although the major aim is not to make profits and also to provide services to people, ensure that enough revenue is being generated to the government. Wow. So that also serves as an advantages to the public enterprises. Although there won't be enough charge from the people, since the major aim is to provide services at a reduced cost. But what happens? The people will be fully satisfied with the services, and the government also they will help in generating revenue to the government or the country. So the next thing we have is the provision of employment. Wow! Since the existence of the public enterprise, what happened? People have been employed into the system. So that also increased large proportion of the populace of the country to be employed. So it means the existence of public enterprises in the country bring about more of employment opportunities to people. So that's also serve as an advantages to the public enterprises. Now also we have the provision of services at reduced cost. Wow! Public enterprises ensure that services are being provided at the very least cost. So the services are provided at the very least while compared to the private enterprises. So the next thing we have is the improvement or improve the standard of living of the populace. So since services are provided at a reduced cost, what happens? The standard of living of people will improve through reduction in the cost of living. So the cost of living of the people will also reduced. As a result of reduction in the cost of living, what will happen? The welfare of the people will be okay and will improve. So which at the end or in the long run improve the standard of living of the people. So the next thing is the avoidance of exploitation. That's one of the major reasons why public enterprises is being formed, is to avoid exploitation of the consumer by manufacturer or producer, that is by the private enterprises, because their major aim is to make profits, and as a result of that, what happen? They won't see to it that the welfare of the world of the consumer is fully satisfied, or citizens is fully satisfied. That is the reason why public enterprises is been existent, to avoid any form of exploitation of the citizen by private enterprises. So the public corporation or public enterprises ensure that the consumer are not exploited in form of high prices or in any form or aspect of production. So what happens? That's about the one has an advantages to the public enterprises. Now another advantage we are having is the avoid monopoly tendencies. So it ensures that any private individual is able to be in production of any particular goods, that will not have any single producer of any goods. It's ensure that there is no private monopoly of any particular aspect of production. So that is one of the advantages of the public enterprises. Now we can also look at the disadvantages in the following area. So disadvantages, we can look at that in the following area. Number 1 is large capital requirement. Wow. Number 1 is the large capital requirement to establish the enterprise. It's not for profit making. Number 3 is the inefficiency in operation. Wow. Number 4, we can talk about the aspect of bureaucracy. Okay, we can put it this way: bureaucratic tendencies and red tapeism. So put it that way. We have corruption and mismanagement. So the first thing we have is the large capital requirement. So one major disadvantage of the public enterprises is the result of large capital that is required for its establishment. To establish a public enterprise, amount of large capital is usually required for the establishment of the enterprise. It means it's not an enterprise that can easily be established by a single individual or few individuals, so it's a large amount of capital to establish it. That's serve as one of the disadvantages of the public enterprise. So the enterprise is not for what? It's not for profit making. So the enterprise is not usually profitable. So that is the major aim. Since the major aims of the public enterprises is to provide services to the people, so profit making aspect is not there. So what will happen? That will also serve as a disadvantage to the public enterprise or public corporation. Now the next thing we have is inefficiency in operation. Generally, it has been known that in this country, the public enterprises are not working with full efficiency. So they are not working in full efficiencies. There's a lot of ineffectiveness in the aspect of management. So what happened? That serves as one of the disadvantages of the public enterprises. Now the next thing we have is the bureaucratic tendencies and red tapeism. Wow. Since this decision making has to be followed in parts or in some aspect of hierarchy, it means when decisions will be taken, the decisions we have to follow some hierarchy down to lower management. That's slow decision making in the enterprises. That also serves as a problem to the public corporation. So red tapeism is one of the problems and brokerage is one of the problems, since decision making is not taken by any form of individuals or any form of individuals that attains a particular position. So decision have to come from the top down to the bottom. So there is that also slowly decision making that compares to sole proprietorship and other form of business enterprises. So that slow decision making in the enterprise seems decision making has to follow some paths or hierarchy before they have been taken. So what happened? That also serves as a disadvantage to public enterprises. Now the next thing we have is corruption and mismanagement. Wow, corruption and mismanagement. Those that are responsible for the management of public enterprises are corrupt and they mismanage the enterprise. They have the belief that since the business for the government is not theirs, what happen? One day they will leave and that person will come. So they do that in their selfish interest, and mismanage the enterprises for their selfish gain. So what happened? So that also makes it to be inefficient in operation. So that's one of the problems of public enterprises, also on disadvantage. Now the next thing we have here, we can add more to it. We can have frequent government interference. Let's talk about the intervention. Wow, government usually intervene in the aspect of public enterprise. Although the government is the owner of the enterprise, the government should not frequently interfere into the affairs of the enterprise and that actually affects the efficiency and effectiveness of the what of the enterprise. The government would tell the enterprises decisions should not be taken, or else it has been ordered by the government. That also slow what decision making in the enterprise. So we have the reasons for the establishment of public corporation, or reasons for government participation in the public enterprise. Now let's look at the reasons on the following basis. Well, number one reason is large capital requirements or high capital requirements. Number two is revenue generation. Number three is to avoid monopolistic tendency in the economy and number three is to avoid foreign dominance. To avoid foreign dominance of the economy, and the foreigners should not dominate the economy. And number five, one of the reasons why government will also take over public corporation is to provide employment opportunity for the people. Provide employment opportunity. So provide employment opportunity. And number six also, why will government take over the public corporation? Why will government take over the public corporation? And they can take over the public corporation for strategic and security reason. Can take over that for strategic and security reason. So we can also take that maybe to encourage economic development. Encourage economic development. Government can just decide, okay, let's take over this corporation to encourage economic development. And also, government can also take over the enterprises in order to improve the standard of living of the people. So we'll be looking at that in the following areas. So first thing is the high capital requirement or large capital requirement. Wow, as been said earlier. So what happened? Establishing a public enterprises require large or vast amount of capital, and what happened in such a way that such capital cannot be provided by what? By individuals. So government can take over such enterprises and provide the capital and cease to its what? To its establishment. So that is the reason why government can easily what? Participate in the public what? In the public enterprises or establish public enterprises as a result of what? Large capital requirements. So government can also participate in the what? In the public enterprises for revenue generation. So to add to its source of revenue, government can easily establish the enterprises not add to its source of what? Revenue. And also one of the reasons is to avoid monopolistic tendencies. So government can take over some aspect of production in order to ensure that no single individuals in the economy is able to control the economy by itself. And there's a lot of us. There will be a lot of problems if a single individual should be the one producing some aspect of goods and services. You know what happened as a result of monopoly and the result of monopoly. So government can easily take over some enterprises in order for this to avoid any form of monopolistic tendencies by any producer or manufacturer. Now the next thing we have is to avoid foreign dominance. So to avoid that the foreigners dominate the economy and take over some aspect of goods and services, some aspect of industry, government can easily establish public enterprises in that industries in order to chase away foreign domination of the economy. So the next one we also have is to provide employment opportunity. To to provide employment opportunity. Government can also provide employment opportunities to the populace of the country. So if public enterprise is being established, government can, people are lacking job, what will happen? Government can establish different public corporations and enterprises in order to provide the employment to the people of the economy or to the citizens. Now the next thing is for strategic and security reasons. Wow, government can establish different kind of public corporation or enterprises by itself and put it in the exclusive rights or exclusive ownership of such enterprises due to the fact that such enterprise, if it's in the hand of individuals, what will happen? There may be security threats and a lot of reasons like defense, you understand, airway, a lot of enterprises in which the government will have to take over for strategic and security reasons. So the next one we have is to encourage economic development. Government can say that, let's take over these enterprises to encourage even economic development in the country. So different public corporations and enterprises will be established in different parts of the country to encourage even economic development and quick economic development in the country. Now is to improve the standard of living. So when the public enterprise is established, its major aim is to provide services to the people. And what happens once that service is being provided by the government? What happens? The standard of living and the welfare of the people will be what we improve through reduction in the cost of living of the people. So we are going to look at the reasons, the problem associated with public corporation, and we are going to look at that in the following areas. Problems associated. We are going to look at it in the following areas. So we are going to look at number one. Number one problem is in the aspect of political instability, and number two is in the aspect of frequent government interferences. So government usually will interferes in the affairs of the public corporation. Let's say government intervention. Frequent government intervention. Number three is lack of qualified personnel. Wow. Lack of qualified personnel. Lack of qualified personnel. Number four, we're going to look at in the aspect of embezzlement. Of funds by the management. We're going to look at the aspect of corruptions and mismanagement. So we are going to look at in the aspect of sectionalism, aspect of sectionalism and ethicism. Look at aspect of ethicism. So let's look at in the following aspect: political instability. So frequent change of government of the country. Frequent change of government usually affects the public corporations. Frequent change of government affects the public corporation. So change of government from military to civilians actually affects what? Public corporation. It affects the controls and management of public corporations. What? Generally. So if there is frequent change of government, what happens? The public corporation can easily be converted to what? To a private enterprises. And what happens? That affects the public corporation. That affects the service of public corporation. That affects the improvement of the public corporation. So it's one of the problems of the public enterprises to frequent political instability. Political instability, since the political activities of the world, all West African countries is usually unstable. That affects the public enterprises. Now the next thing is government intervention or government interference. Government interferes to the activities of public enterprises, and that's how the major problem to the enterprises. Now, next thing is lack of qualified personnel. Wow, you know, the success of an enterprise is determined by what? Calibers of management and personnel in the enterprises. The more qualified personnel, what will happen? The more the efficient and effectiveness of such an organization or enterprises. So what happened? Majority of the public enterprises lack qualified personnel to manage its affairs. That also serves as a problem to the public enterprises. Now the next thing we have is the embezzlement of funds. Wow, public funds. Majority of the generated revenue being generated by the government, by the public enterprises, are actually what embezzled by the management. So they embezzle a lot of funds for their personal gain and selfish interest. That also serves as a problem. Now the next thing we have is corruption and mismanagement. So what happened? Corruption actually what? Officials are usually corrupt, and what they mismanage funds which are meant for the government and which are meant for the public. They mismanage it for their selfish interests. That also serves as a problem. Now the next thing is sectionalism and aestheticism. So what happened? The appointment, the activities of public enterprises is usually based on section in terms of ethnics, you know, and some are saying in terms of position, in terms of appointment, a lot of things based on ethics and appointment, in terms of race, in terms of sex. So they sectionalize the public enterprise in terms of all these aspects, and that also serves as a problem to the public enterprises, and that can occur in Nigeria in terms of appointment, whereby they believe that okay, a certain aspect of ethics will be the one that will be in the position of this and that, and okay, to appoint in some enterprises, they will look at okay, what ethnic group do you belong to? Are you Yoruba or are you Igbo before you can be employed in such an enterprises? That also serves as a problem. It doesn't matter whether you have an expertise in the enterprise or in the knowledge of the enterprise to move the enterprise forward. It doesn't matter. Once you don't belong to such an ethnic group, you don't have the right to be appointed. So that happens. That serves as a problem to the public enterprises. Now the next thing we'll be looking at is sources of finance or capital to public corporation. When is the public corporation receives finance for? So we are going to look at that source of finance or capital to public corporation. Public corporation can receive loan and overdraft. Loan and overdraft from bank. You can receive grant from the government. Grant from government. Can receive grant from government. And again, public corporation can generate its revenue itself. That's internal generated, its RGR revenue. So can also receive grants for financial institution. Can receive grants from financial institution. Can receive grants from financial institution, and also receive grants from foreign So if you see grant from foreign governments, so that's the way the public enterprises source for its fund in the establishment or source for its capital. So we have loan and overdraft from bank, and receive loan and overdraft from bank, and also can receive grant from government, can also generate its revenue by itself. That's the source of what? Finance. And also can receive grant for financial institutions like IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, or World Bank, and also can also receive grant from foreign government. That's a source of what? Revenue to the public corporation. So the next on the line is to look at the differences between the public corporation and public limited company. I'm not going to look at the differences in the following area. We're going to look at the form of ownership. We're going to look at the form of what is the aim of the enterprise? What What is the aim of establishing the enterprise? Okay, let's look at first the formation. How is it formed? How is the enterprise formed? What is the aim of the enterprise? The control, and how is the capital of each of these enterprise sourced for? Now, the first thing here, ownership. Generally, public enterprises are owned by the government of the country, while public limited liability companies are owned by the shareholders of the company, the owner of the company. So the next thing is formation. Wow, the public enterprises is usually formed by an act of parliament. That is what is lifted by what? By law, by legislature, so by an act of parliament. Why public limited company is what? Is formed through incorporation. That is by the company act, like by the company law. So and it's controlled by the what? Companies and Allied Matter Act, CAMA. So now the next thing is aim. The aim of public enterprises is to what? Is to provide services at the reduced cost to the people of the country, while the aim of public limited company is to make profit for its shareholders. That is the major aim. Now, control. How is the public enterprises controlled? Public enterprises is usually controlled by the board of what? By the board of directors, usually appointed by the minister. That is the government which is appointed. So it's controlled by the word, by the board of directors appointed by the word ministers or government. And while the public limited company is also controlled by the board of directors, and this they are usually appointed by the shareholders of the country. Now, lastly, we have one here is the capital. How is the capital of public enterprise sourced for? Now, the capital of public enterprise is provided by the government through taxpayers' money or grant received from financial institutions, so they are using the word in the establishment of the. They are used in the establishment of the public enterprises. Why public limited company usually provided by the shareholders through subscription of shares and other sources of loans. So capital is provided by the what? By the government in public enterprises or public corporation, while capital is provided by the what? By the shareholders in public limited company. So these are the differences we can look at in the public corporation and public limited company.